a woman in my 30s who works as a hairstylist. It's aerobatics that you can among the customers who come to our beauty shop. There is one person who often reads the stories here. At first, because she recommended them, we read the stories together, but now I have been looking and reading them on my own. And after reading and listening to the stories, I was reminded of a time in my unforgettable 20s. So, I cautiously wrote my story to send it in. My parents got divorced when I was in the 7th grade in middle school. As I watched my parents fight every day as if they were at war, I couldn't understand them, thinking, if they are going to live like that, why won't they just get divorced? Why do they live together yet can't stand each other like that? Around that time, I was going through puberty and my parents didn't pay any attention to their only daughter. To them, their fierce fighting was more important to them than me. At that time, I must have matured quickly, because I thought that my emotional state was something I couldn't display depending on the atmosphere at home. Adults around me praised me, saying, "Julie is different from other kids. She's more mature, so she's much more charming, and her parents must be very proud of her." They didn't know any better, and whenever they said that, I just smiled lightly and avoided them. My dad was a worker at a construction site, and my mom worked part-time at a local market that was quite big. The reason for the fight between my parents was always money. The reason why mother, who used to be a full-time homemaker, got a part-time job was also because of money. Like the men in other families, you have to bring your pay regularly every month so that I can take care of the household expenses properly. What a mess this is. Money comes and goes. How can it live when I'm so nervous waiting for the money? It's like this. The fight between the two was that my dad's pay was not consistently on time. After several more years of fierce fighting, my parents eventually got divorced. My mom told me to live with my dad because it was already hard enough for her to even take care of herself. Then she packed her things and left. I was in shock. I had thought ever since I was little that my mom and dad might get divorced someday. But of course, I assumed that my mom would take me with her. After that day, only my dad and I were left in our house. The house that was always like a battlefield was so quiet like a temple, where all the sounds were gone. My dad kept his distance from me because I was somewhat difficult to handle as a daughter. I think, strangely enough, he did a lot of construction work in other regions, so I was often left alone in the house. Now that I think about it, it wasn't easy for my dad to stay in the same house with me. To be honest, it was comfortable to be in the house with no one around as far as I was concerned. I didn't have to be anxious anymore, and I could walk around the house without worrying about my dad. I shouldn't be like that, but when my dad didn't come home, I came to like him more and more. Without any adult supervision, I fell in love with playing games or watching celebrities on TV rather than studying. When I went to school, I run around with some bad friends. My friends and I usually got together, and sometimes we didn't go to school wearing plain clothes rather than our school uniform, pretending to be adults and went out to play. Doing what adults tell you not to do was thrilling and fun, so we played hooky from school. My house was a perfect place to be because it was often vacant. That's how my house became our hideout. I knew that this was a bad thing, but I felt as if I earned the freedom, and I thought maybe it would be okay to do just that. The beginning was difficult, and once I started, I couldn't stop. My dad seemed to have noticed it too, but he didn't seem willing to say anything to me. Then one day, my dad introduced me to a woman I didn't know. Soon after, he informed me that she was going to be my stepmom. I was shaken because it was unexpected. The woman who would become my stepmother looked at me and said, "You look cuter than I thought, don't you? I hope we get to know each other better." She reached out her hand to me first, but I didn't hold that hand, and I did the best I could to oppose her to no avail, and I had to attend my dad's wedding. My birth mom somehow heard the news of my dad's remarriage and contacted me for the first time since she left us. She then kept asking what kind of woman my stepmom was. I asked my mom, "Can't I just live with you, Mom? There are many days when Dad doesn't come home, so how could I stay alone with a woman I don't know?" Without answering my mom's questions, I pleaded with my mom. However, as expected, she said that she couldn't afford to have me yet. But if my stepmom bullied me, she said I should call her at any time and hung up the phone. And just as I was worried about, I had to stay alone with my stepmom more days, and not due to my dad's frequent absences. One day, to avoid that situation, I planned on going to a friend's house in the evening. In the evening, I packed my things with the intention of sleeping overnight and came out of my bedroom. My stepmom asked me where I was going, and she snatched my bag. "I heard from your dad that you never study and only do things that you are told not to do. Your father's very worried. When I heard that, she ruined my mood and made me angry, so I snapped at her. Who are you to meddle in my affairs? Do you think you became my mother just because you married my dad? But my stepmom ignored me and started taking my things out of my bag one by one. I was startled by her action and rushed to snatch my bag away from her and yelled, "What are you doing now? Why are you rummaging through other people's bags?" I was furious, but my stepmom smiled awkwardly at me and said, "I was curious about what kids these days take when they go out, so I just looked. So why are you getting all out of shape for? Anyways, you can't go out at this time of the night, so go back to your room," she said lightly as if nothing happened. I was so dumbfounded. Who are you to tell? I started to shout at her, but she cut me off before I could finish my sentence. Who about your mother? Honestly, it is awkward for me to call myself a mother, but what could we do? You and I are now tied together like that. I won't eat you, so go to sleep when I'm telling you nicely. Isn't there a saying that a person is no match for you? Well, I learned what that meant that night personally. In other words, I was overtaken by my stepmom's personality that I dropped my tail and ended up going back to my room. Feeling restless, I tried hard to force myself to go to sleep. In my mind, what did my dad see in her to even marry that woman? Next morning, I came out into the living room to wash up. I had been thinking that I didn't want to see my stepmom and start the day. But what caught my eye was a $50 bill and a note on the table. The note said, "Your credit card has been suspended. From now on, spend your allowance. $50 a month should be okay, right?" The credit card I had was given to me by my dad, who often didn't come home. At the start of the day in the morning, I became furious, and I searched for my stepmother, but I couldn't find her even though I searched all over the house. Feeling upset, I sighed, put the money in my pocket, and left the house. When I got to school, I told my friends about the absurd and annoying things I've been through. My friends changed their faces when I said that my credit card had been suspended and wouldn't hang around with me since. They were my friends with whom we shared secrets and did things we weren't supposed to do and played hooky together. But it seemed they did not consider me as their friend. I felt so betrayed by them to the point that I fell into depression. I blamed this on my stepmom, who is the culprit, and on my dad, who brought that hateful stepmom whom I couldn't forgive. I locked myself in my bedroom and did not come out. After spending 2 weeks like that, the school called because of my long absences, but I ignored it, totally feeling I didn't care. Then one day, I heard a hammering noise outside my door, and my door got broken to be opened. I was so shocked and flustered when I saw my stepmom with a hammer in her hand. "Bones, what the hell are you doing? Why did you break my door?" I screamed as loudly as I could. However, she didn't bat an eye and hit my head hard with her hand. This with a little exaggeration. I thought I saw a few stars and felt dazed somewhat, as if I would faint. What kind of a fool are you to be stuck in your room for a little thing like that? I went to your school today and heard everything. Did you think that those kids you met for money were your friends? I thought you went through something big to make you act like that. Don't put on an ugly show and go to school starting tomorrow. Joe, do you think I'm putting on a show now? What do you know? For beg you. Just stop paying attention to me. Wait, no. Shall I guess what is in your mind? You're betrayed and lose your temper, and you become helpless at what you can do. It's worried about how you will go to school in the future. You get annoyed and just want to give up everything and want to ask your birth mom to live with her. But aren't you afraid of being abandoned again? I couldn't say anything. Like some kind of a psychic, she recited what I have been thinking all this time. My face started to get hot even, but my stepmom's words after that made me get even more flustered. I know because I myself have been through it all. You don't have to think of me as a mother. You can just think of me as a person who's already experienced the same things you are going through now. It's okay to act rudely, but don't hide to annoy others. If you do, you only harm yourself. I was in tears. I felt like I had been exposed bare naked, and I just kept crying. Hold your head up high and go to school tomorrow, and if necessary when you finish school, I'll be in front of the school gates and wait for you. Comparatively is, I won't put up with those bitches and will give them a better taste of medicine from me. My stepmom seemed to be angry, but was exaggerating somewhat and said out loud in front of me. I kept crying, but I couldn't help but laugh. Now are you laughing a little? Why? Are you relieved that you now have someone on your side? Which on your side? In fact, I'm confessing this only to you, that when I was in school, I wasn't a joke. Even the rough kids in school who were bullies couldn't look me in the eyes, even because of fear. You don't know what kind of a strong person is cheering for you. Now to you. I guess that you were not a model student. Why? Well, anyway, trust me and go to school and do whatever you want to do with them. Don't be timid. Can I really do whatever I want to do? Let's not go to the police station. I don't like it when any place ends in station. Like that. My stepmom and I laughed at the same time. I saw my stepmom's smiling face for the first time. That day, I felt something that I never felt before. Oh, and even from my own mom. That someone was on my side. Just like that, the locked door in my heart when my stepmother started to break down. The next day, I mustered up the courage to go to school. The friends who used to share illicit thrills together with me started to bully me, starting with tapping me annoyingly. And like my stepmom said, I tried hard not to appear timid by glaring hard at them. After school, as I was going across the schoolyard to go home, those friends approached me and said, "Even if your credit card got suspended, you carry some cash, right?" I don't have any. Hey, do you think I would believe that? I don't care if you believe it or not. I pushed those friends roughly and stepped forward, but one of them snatched my hair, so just as I was trying to grab her hair, I heard a screaming sound. I didn't know when she came, but it was my stepmom holding the hair of the one who snatched my hair. "Who the heck are you, lady? Can't you see? I'm a person. Don't play with me." "Oh yeah, I'm her mother." All of those friends froze instantly, and my stepmom seemed to drag those friends in front of her aside and saying something. I saw their faces turn white, and at once, they all raced out of the school gates as if they were running away. What did you say to make them run away like that? If they bullied you once more in the future, I'm crazy enough to make sure to write their names and grades in red on a huge play card and display it in front of the school for everyone who's passing by to see. He made me laugh. My stepmom was quirky, but I started to feel grateful for her caring for me. After that, my stepmom and I gradually narrowed the distance and became very close, to the point that people who didn't know her and me really mistook us as a real mother and daughter. I graduated from middle school and finished my 3rd year of high school when my dad told me to go to college, but I didn't want to put the burden on my dad with the loans for the tuition. Tuition for me, who didn't even have any good grades. Instead, I opted to attend a beauty school, but my dad was dead set against it, telling me that in order to get a good job and socialize, I must graduate from a 4-year university. At that time, I couldn't understand my father's insistence to force me to go to college when our financial circumstances weren't that good. Eventually, he and I were terribly at odds with one another. Originally, my dad was very stubborn and I was no less, being my dad's daughter. Then my stepmom stood up for me. "Why are you interfering with your daughter's life? Are you going to live her life? It's not something to fight over and it has already been days. Are you bored?" My stepmom winked at me secretly and took my side against my dad. Then my dad just made some dry coughs and looking embarrassed. He took a cigarette and went out for a smoke. My stepmom gave me her credit card and told me to register at a beauty academy the next day. For the first time, I told her thank you, and she smiled, telling me to study hard. That's how my first step into the world of independence started. Being youngest, I worked at a beauty salon, doing all kinds of menial jobs from cleaning the shop to doing the laundry from morning to night. I worked really hard standing all day and my legs would be swollen so much. When everyone went home, I finished cleaning up and then I would practice cutting hair and rolling it for a perm practically every night. Then one day, I saw a customer that I had never seen before who was knocking on the door. "Excuse me, but could I get a haircut?" "I'm sorry, but we're closed. You can come back either in the morning or before 8 p.m. at night." "I'm really sorry, but I have a very important meeting, and I really need to cut my hair. So could I ask you for a favor, please? Could you do it for me?" Earthing of cart missed. "I'm so sorry, but all the hairstylists have gone home." "They're right. But aren't you a hairstylist as well?" "I am, but I'm only a trainee and not a regular." I didn't finish my sentence, even though I had no reason to. Then he looked at my hand that had scissors and said, "It's okay with me. I just need a trim. Could I ask you to do that for me? Just think of me as that mannequin and cut it as a practice." Pardon me. I was very surprised. Once in a while, I would see customers dropping by at late hours, but there was no one who asked a trainee like me to give a haircut. I said firmly that I couldn't in case I make a mistake and ruin the hairstyle. But he said, "It's really okay with me. Actually, the first-time driver is the safest driver. I'm not just saying it. And if I don't get my haircut now, sure, I will be in trouble. That's why." Then he just forced himself into the salon. I became flustered, not knowing what to do. Then he smiled, telling me that he would never blame me, even if the hair turned out weird. He kept assuring me over and over again. So, I carefully combed his hair and calmly and slowly started to trim his hair bit by bit to ensure I don't cut away a lump irreversibly. I kept checking to make sure, and I was so tensed up that my hands were soaked in sweat. It took longer than 1 hour. Fortunately, I didn't ruin his hairstyle and successfully finished cutting his hair. He said he would pay for his haircut, but I declined, saying that I wasn't a full-fledged hairstylist and just a trainee. And I feel bad about making you comb my hair for free. It's alright, because I'm not a formal hairstylist, and if my boss finds out, I would get into trouble. If I don't pay you, then you don't get into trouble, do you? Well, once in a while, I comb my friend's hair as a practice. If I am asked, I could tell her that it was for practice. Oh, is that right? Then, instead of money, please accept this. Instead of money, the man gave me his business card. You said I am a friend, so you need to know my contact information at least. Oh, just in case, if you get into trouble with your boss for this, please be sure to call me. I will come over right away and get the scolding on your behalf. He thanked me profusely and left. Later, by looking in the mirror, I realized that I was so red in the face. After I came home, I kept looking at the man's business card over and over. He was a CPA, and his name was John Montgomery. Even though I didn't receive money for it, he was my very first customer, so I kept repeating his name. At that time, I never thought we would have any occasion to meet again. However, after that incident, we saw each other at least once a month. Of course, whenever I saw him, I didn't get paid, but received something else. It's okay as long as it's not money, right? As a friend, I didn't want to come empty-handed, so I brought some chicken. As I was coming over here, I was craving for ice cream, and I was greedy to taste this and that, so I ended up buying so many flavors. A friend bought them, so don't feel burdened, and let's enjoy eating them together. He was quirky but humorous, and I was moved by his ways, and we soon became a couple. Like my first meeting, he was quite busy, but after work, he would make time to come and pick me up. Thus, almost every night, we dated, albeit short. At my work in the salon, after 2 years, I moved to another salon and became a full-fledged hairstylist. I started to get regular customers who would ask for me, and by the time my position became stabilized, my boyfriend proposed to me. He was 7 years older than I was, and his mother was putting pressure on him to get married, and he wanted to introduce me to his family. He had a mother who owned a pharmacy, and he had a younger sister who was the same age as me. When I thought of meeting them, I felt so tense and nervous, so I couldn't give him my answer. When I came home, I told my stepmom about my boyfriend's proposal and his invitation to meet his family, but I couldn't reply because I was too nervous. Then my stepmom said, "Why do you look like a scared rabbit?" If it were me, I would be so happy and all excited that I would jump up and down dancing. What if they don't like me? Why would they not like you? Well, I didn't graduate from college, and my boyfriend is a CPA, and I'm only a hairstylist, so don't you feel very confident? Yes, somewhat, but both of you have professional jobs, so why should you feel less confident? Are you joking? How could a hairstylist be on the same level as the CPA? There's no difference in professionalism. It's just to make a living. My stepmom always was like that, who simply but surely stood by my side. I was encouraged by her words and went to meet my boyfriend's family. Well, welcome. John told me he was bringing a girl he was going to marry. So I have been waiting for you so much. Hello, my name is Julie Avery. As if I was worried needlessly, my boyfriend's mother welcomed me warmly. My boyfriend said that his younger sister had an appointment, so I would see her next time. So just my boyfriend and I sat at the dinner table where his mom made food and set it for us. I opened my mouth in admiration in front of the stylishly prepared delicious food. Seeing me like that, his mother smiled at me gracefully. At that moment, I thought to myself, I have worried in vain, and finally relaxed, feeling relieved. So when we were close to finishing eating dinner, I heard their front door open, and my boyfriend's younger sister came back, and I got to meet her. Then, I froze instantly. My boyfriend's young sister was one of my rough friends I hung around with, and later she was the one who was caught by my stepmom for bullying me and later ran away. She and I recognized each other even though time had passed, and we didn't say anything from shock and just looked at each other. Julie Avery, Samantha, long time no see. We greeted each other. We greeted each other awkwardly, and my boyfriend and his mother were amazed that we knew each other and became all excited and made a fuss. We kept an awkward smile throughout the whole time. My boyfriend became concerned and asked me, "Aren't you feeling well?" And his mom went inside and brought out her medicine and gave it to me saying, "I take this when I get indigestion." Although it wasn't something that could be solved by taking the medicine, I still took it and left soon after that. Then, when my boyfriend was taking me home, I told him about the relationship between his sister and me. He seemed to be surprised. From what I heard from my boyfriend, Samantha was nice and Hugh wasn't very brave with a lot of fears, so he couldn't imagine her to be that tough in school and didn't seem to believe me. When I came home, I wondered if I shouldn't have told him the truth. After I came back from my boyfriend's house, my stepmom seemed very curious about the meeting. However, I couldn't bring myself to tell her that the friend who bullied me was my boyfriend's younger sister. The next day, I was very surprised to receive a telephone call from my boyfriend's mother. "Vasilevs, I'm sorry to be calling you when you're working, but I'm in a hurry. So is it possible if I could see you for a minute this afternoon? I have something to tell you." I thought what I was afraid of was happening, and I agreed to meet her. Truthfully, I thought the thing happened with Samantha was in the past, and it would be okay if I got along with her from now on. So I wanted to persuade his mother. I told my boss that I would take a break to meet someone and went to a nearby cafe to meet with my boyfriend's mother. "I won't take up too much of your time. I want to say it directly. I can't approve this marriage." "Excuse me? Did Samantha say something?" "Well, that too, but I personally feel that you're not compatible with my son as his wife. John begged me to see you just once, so I agreed to see you. But now that my daughter is not on comfortable terms with you as well, let's think that you guys weren't meant to be. Does John think the same way? That's why I need to ask you for a favor." She was asking me to break up with John first. Since I also had a problem with her daughter, it would be better to not end it badly, but try to end it in a good way. My heart beat so fast, and I didn't know what to say in that situation. So I didn't say anything. His mother then looked at me impatiently and kept drinking water and asked, "Are you upset because of what I said, or are you disappointed because it wasn't what you expected?" She kept talking by herself. I really didn't want to say this, but I guess from your point of view, you probably don't want to lose my son. But if you would think from my point of view for a change, I didn't raise my son, sacrificing myself all alone and supported him to become a CPA just to marry a girl like you. I heard that your father works as a day laborer in a construction site, and your mom is a stepmom, right? Don't you think you're too presumptuous? Aren't you, girl? I wondered how she could say those mean things so gracefully without raising her tone of voice. I thought it would be too difficult to go on, and I was going to say okay when I heard someone say, "What is all this? I thought some dog pooped, but the stink is actually coming out from here." Just behind me, it was the voice of my stepmom. I was so startled and turned around to see. "Mom, why are you here?" "I came to have a cup of coffee. You shouldn't do a background search of others, but you should take good care of your own children. Did your daughter now stop smoking and drinking?" "Aside from smoking and drinking, I wonder if her personality got any better." "Lady, if you are using your son to display like a marketable product, he won't be any better person from being raised by you." "What?" My boyfriend's mother became furious at my stepmom's criticism and got off from her feet. And my stepmom asked, "Are you by any chance Kathy Brown?" And she approached my boyfriend's mother to take a closer look. And my boyfriend's mother looked shocked and her face turned grim. "Chins, that is you. I heard you committed adultery and broke up another family by having an affair and marrying the guy. Hey, it's me that I won't agree to this marriage. I heard your lover went back to his wife, but how dare you say those absurd words to my precious daughter? Be a precious daughter. You should be the one who shouldn't be two-faced. She's not your daughter, is she? And what is so precious about her? She's merely a worker at a beauty shop and gets pennies for doing people's hair. Are you done? How dare you say that when you display your own son to make money?" Then my stepmom took the glass of water that was on the table and splashed it against John's mother's face. His mother, startled by the sudden shower of water, couldn't close her mouth in shock. "Ex-Washti, did you throw that water at me? Didn't you get rid of your bad habits since you were young?" "Right, I didn't get rid of it. And I won't ever get rid of it either, because there should be someone like me to deal with the bad lots like you. Honey, let's go. I'm telling you clearly, I am also against this marriage. Julie, I can't bear to send you to that family because your boyfriend's mother is so trashy." I left the cafe, dragged by my stepmom's hand. For a long time, I was dragged by my stepmom. Then she stopped and looked at me seriously. Did I overreact? And I thought my stepmom was cute, frightened a little. I said as I started laughing, she said. I feel relieved now that you are laughing. There are a lot of men in the world, and you can meet a better person because you're good enough. So don't blame me. After her words, my stepmother walked away with a brisk pace, as if she was embarrassed. I thought I knew then why my dad had married my stepmom. I ran and took my stepmother's hand. Go with me. Are you going to run away after blocking my wedding? Are you and I strangers? And I always walk fast. My stepmother smiled and continued walking at a brisk pace. She held my hand tighter. I still smile whenever I think about that time. A year ago, my stepmom, who was always full of energy and so courageous, passed away while rescuing a little child on the street from an oncoming car. The child was perfectly fine with no injuries on her, but I lost the most wonderful mother in the world. For my father and me, we are still mourning from losing her, as the emptiness without her is so great. Whenever we talk about her, we both are in tears. I want to take this opportunity to tell my stepmom in heaven these words briefly. My mother, whom I miss so much. As you always said, I won't go hiding, and I will live proudly with my head held high. In my next life, I hope you will be my birth mother. I'm the daughter who wants to resemble you so much. Your beloved Julie. Lastly, I hope you will share a lot of precious time with your loved ones. Thank you for listening to my story. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.